The NBA draft is done and dusted. So let's take a look at some interesting things that happened. The top 5 most intriguing picks, the top 5 guys who might be relevant in fantasy, and the top 1 person named Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm trying to strike a chord, and it's D major because it's one of the happiest sounding chords. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. So thumb it up, subscribe, ring the bell, leave your comments down below. That would be great. Debated what I was going to do with the draft today. We're going to do a full breakdown on stuff and draft classes, but I wanted to make sure that we could get information on all the two-way guys, which takes a little bit of time to clear up. Exhibit 10s, all that sort of stuff. Before I start going through it, we're then in the coming days, we will have a full Dynasty rookie rankings. I don't know how deep it'll go. Probably out to 100, I'm guessing. I'll do draft breakdowns per team. And then we head into free agency. But as the second round has just finished, and some interesting guys slid through the cracks and fell down there, there was some interesting stuff in that second round. What I wanted to do in this show here is just give you some superlatives, some lists. And it's really hard to know with some of this stuff, but the first one's subjective, so it's easy. We're talking about the top 5. The top 5 most intriguing picks in this draft. I'm not saying they're good or bad, but they're the things that I think are, that's really interesting. Let's see what happens. The second part of the show is going to be what I currently see as the potential for the players, the top 5 players to have fantasy impact this season. And I'm going to probably throw 3 or so names at the end of that to maybe push it out to 8. But 5 main guys, again, which could completely blow up once free agency settles in, but with the way that I currently see how that's all looking. Let's start with the top 5 most intriguing picks across the NBA draft. And I'm going to go, first of all, straight to, can you guess where? We're going to Detroit. Because I had Rocket Ronnie Holland, I had Dutchie, sitting at number 2 on my board all the way through. There was talk of him falling outside the lottery, and I couldn't believe it. It's like, why? Why would we do this? Why would he fall that far? And the Pistons said, not on my watch. It's also probably one of the worst fits that there is. But I think that when you have a new GM coming in there, a new coach, we don't know who it is, a brand new best in the business, BITB, say that again, best in the business shooting coach in Fred Vinson, you take a crack at it. Ron Holland, the second, goes to Detroit. Yeah, Jaden Ivey can't really shoot, especially for his position. He's not bad, but he's not great. Asar Thompson, 100% cannot shoot. Jalen Duren cannot shoot. Cade Cunningham can sort of shoot. He's not elite, but he's solid enough at it. So I don't really know what the plan is here, but as much as I love Asar, and as much as I think Jalen Duren can be good, massive concerns with him defensively, as much as I think Jaden Ivey was the right pick at the time, and I still think that he got completely screwed over last season, this front office isn't committed to any of these guys. They could move on from any of them. And if they think that Holland is better, and it's possible, then that's what they do. Ronnie, I've got some of the numbers up on the screen. He played 32 minutes for the Ignite. He's got a 6'11 wingspan as a 6'7 forward, so the measurables are all there. He's just about to turn 19 in a week. He averaged 24 and 8 with almost 3 steals and over a block per 40 minutes. They're really big numbers. Now, of course, he shot horribly. 24% from 3 with really bad misses. Tankathon, I'm not sure if you're aware, for all prospects, has a projected 3-point percentage, which is based on 3-point volume. It's based on free throw shooting as well. And Ron's came out at 33.4, which I found interesting. Yeah, he shot horribly, but 33.4, it's not great. But Fred Vinson worked with Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels. and turn them all into respectable to good shooters. Ronnie shot 73 from the line. That's encouraging. It's not 50. It's not 60%. It's 73. That's encouraging. And, 28 usage in the G League is an interesting number. Now, that, as you can see, went pick 5 to Detroit. I've got that similarity number there. I don't know if you've seen it. A website called NBA Draft Model. Jesse Fisher has a top 140 players with a bunch of advanced stats to create like the top similarities. A lot of the guys aren't super, super similar. The name that comes out is absolutely terrifying from his college numbers, and that's Jarrett Culver. Now, Jarrett Culver was the 6th overall pick. Some people thought he would be good. I did not think Jarrett Culver was going to be good coming out of that draft, and he was very much not good. So I don't love that that's the similarity with the statistics. But I do believe that Holland's size, and I'll say this phrase a million times, in this draft, it makes sense to me. It's intriguing. It could be disgraceful. It could make this Pistons team even worse and have Cade looking like, can anyone hit a shot ever? It could make them move on from guys like Asad. Sorry, my voice just blew up completely talking about the idea of Ron Holland and Asad Thompson shooting together. They could move on from a number of different guys. I just think that I would have picked Holland here just because I had him that high on my board. I would have picked him earlier than this. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really intriguing to see how that pans out. I think the next most intriguing player to me is Robert Dillingham. I was excited to see him go to San Antonio. I thought that Wemby was going to be able to protect him defensively. I think the scoring and creation and shooting is all awesome. And then he got traded. I went, oh, that's annoying. And then he went to a situation where it could be the second best spot. Goes to Minnesota, works off the bench behind Mike Conley, has a chance to take over that position in a year or so. 2 years, who knows. Plays a combo guard role immediately that Shake Milton and Monte Morris could not do. And you've got Rudy Gobert behind you and Jaden McDaniels next to you, helping to protect. And Anthony Edwards, of course. He's really small. He's 6'1" with a 6'3" wingspan. He shot 44% from 3, which is shadowed by his teammate Reed Shepherd, but he shot 44% from 3. He is projected as a 39% shooter in the NBA. He averaged 24, 5, and 6 with 1.6 steals. He hit over 3 threes per 40 minutes. The usage, the creation, the shooting, the creativity is really, really interesting here. But so many small guards in this draft fell, and the NBA has been going down this path for a long time. The Wolves obviously know you can have success with a smaller guard because they've got Mark Conley there right now. But that is not the trend in the NBA. So that's why it's interesting to me. A, that they made a bet and gambled away unprotected and pick swaps in the 2030s. So there was a slight gamble there. They traded up to get a 6'1" guard who maybe can't defend at all. And by the time he's actually getting into a larger role, maybe Gobert's not even there anymore. So where is the protection after that? It's a big gamble. But I think Rob's ability to be an offensive guy, and we know that the problem for them in the playoffs was there is no offense. You cannot create enough shots. And Rob Dillingham could do that. But maybe those deficiencies, there is a huge chance to me that those deficiencies are just going to be too hard to overcome. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. When you're looking for tickets to an event, you don't want that to be a hassle-filled situation. It should be easy, it should be fun, because let's be fair, you're going to something good. You're going to an exciting event. Major League Baseball, the summer is here for you guys in the States, and Game Time is an authorized marketplace for Major League Baseball tickets. So you get your tickets faster and easier. You get last-minute tickets. They've got the flash deals, the zone deals as well. I'm going to be heading over to the States in a week or so. I'm going to be taking in some baseball games. I'll be opening up that Game Time app, checking what's available, and seeing what tickets we can get. And you should be doing the same thing. All in pricing as well, where you put that feature on and you can see all the price straight up without hidden fees that get put on at checkout. Everything is right there as you see it, and that's the price you get charged. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, so who else is in my list of top 5 in no particular order, most intriguing picks in the draft. I did not expect to see Charlotte trading up for the big fella, Tijan Salin. Not Saloon, Salin. I did not expect to see this. He's extraordinarily young, we know this. He's 19 in like a month or so. He's 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan. He shot 17 and 7 per 40 minutes with 1.9 steals. 21 usage only. Shot 32 on threes. Projected 3-point percentage of 36. He's probably more of a 4 than a 3, and probably honestly more of a 4-5 than a 4-3. He's an energetic player that is young and just makes like insane mistakes at this stage. Like some of the stuff you go, what are you doing? But I do think that can be cleaned up. He's a hard worker. He hustles. He plays incredibly hard. I think the shot can be there. It's very iffy. The defense is going to be a problem, but he's big. He's wide. Does this mean that the Hornets are moving on from Miles Bridges? I don't think there's really any problem with him fitting with Brandon Miller. I think they're actually a pretty good pairing together. But the Hornets at 6 taking a flyer on a guy like this, where it's conceivable that he could have gone outside the lottery, there is no level of certainty whatsoever with this pick. He could be completely lost the entire way through his rookie contract. The shot may never work. He may get like overwhelmed by the speed of the NBA coming from playing in Chalet. That is all possible. That is why it's intriguing to me. His comp, and I should have told you what Rob Dillingham's comp was. You can see that on YouTube. Rob Dillingham's was Jared Butler. Tijan Salan's is Luol Deng. Which, if he becomes Luol Deng, he's one of the biggest W's ever. No, it's not ever, but like in a bad draft, getting Luol Deng at pick 6 is a huge W. Now, we're not going to expect that. But it is intriguing. Shot his free throws pretty well. Some very good 3-point upside. Big size, good rebounder. I'm intrigued. I wouldn't have done it here. I think there is significant risk in this Hornets pick, but that's what makes it interesting. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with Isaiah Collier for the Utah Jazz. I had Collier in my top 10 in my tier 3 of prospects. Actually, I don't even know if I ended up having him 10. It was very close to being at 10. And when we get into situations with these sort of players who come in as like number 1, number 2 prospects coming into college, they're in a terrible situation, which USC was. And then there's bad, I had him at 11 actually, Collier. Then there's bad interview stuff and concerns about on-court leadership and giving up at times. That's what pushed him down. And he can't shoot. I will give a marginal pass to him as a 19-year-old playing on a USC team, which was horrible. And I will guess there's maybe some level of like, not even resentment, but like him being this number 1 guy going, why is everyone talking about Bronny? It's not necessarily resentment, but I can see that sort of thing going through someone's head and go, look at how bad this team is. Why is everyone still talking Bronny? If Bronny's so good, let him fix it. Like I can understand, and that might be nothing to do with that at all. But I can sort of see how that might occur. The shooting is going to be a problem, but he gets to the line really well. I said there he played 23 minutes a game. That's not true. He played more than 23 minutes. He's 6'3". He averaged 21, 4 and almost 5.5 assists, or a bit over 5.5 assists with 1.9 steals. 30 usage player. He shot 34 on his threes. 67 from the line is not great. His similarity player was Javaris Crittenton, which not ideal. And the Jazz picked him at 29. But they don't have a set-in-stone point guard. Him and Keontae George would be interesting. Not sure exactly how that would work. I think Collier's a much better passer than George. And he's got much more of a chance of developing into a full-time point guard than George does. But it just makes sense to me that the Jazz would take that flyer on him. And we see where it goes. So that's what it's interesting. Was the slide fine? Did it make sense? We saw that Cam Whitmore slid last year, and it looks like that was a bad decision from teams. That's not always the case. Sometimes players slide, and then it never works out, and you go, yeah, I guess they all were right on the money there. And that's why this is interesting. Because Collier's in a great spot with solid development, and we want to see what's real or not. My last top 5, the top 5 of most intriguing picks, was Ryan Dunn. I did not think that Ryan Dunn was going to be a first. Well, that's not true. I thought he was going to be a first round player. I wouldn't have picked Ryan Dunn in the first round. I think it should be relatively obvious why Ryan Dunn's one of the most intriguing picks. Is because he might be the best defensive perimeter prospect to enter the draft in forever, and one of the worst offensive prospects ever. And the Suns, obviously, Beal, Durant, Booker. And they need some defense. So could Dunn be a starter like really quickly and fill that role that we thought Josh Okogie was going to fill last season? Or does he fill the role of Josh Okogie last season and be so horrible offensively that you can't play him? And that's like, we saw them try this. They put Josh Okogie there and it was just, no, we cannot do this. And that's why it's intriguing. The man averaged 3.7 blocks and 2.1 steals per 40 minutes. He's a 6'6" forward who's blocking 3.7 shots per 40 minutes. One of the best shot blocking players you will ever see as a perimeter guy, who realistically probably needs to play center. He's picked at 28. The best similarity was Ronaldo Bolkman. Okay. 17 usage on 20% three-point shooting. He's got a 7'2" wingspan as a 6'6" guy, which is insane. He averaged 13 points per 40 minutes. 11 rebounds, though. 1.3 assists. Like, it is just needs to be schemed perfectly. Can Budenholzer do it? I don't know. But there is absolutely no offense here. And honestly, I don't think there is a chance of any offense really coming to fruition here. And the question is going to be will this defense be good enough to justify, a first-round pick, but justify even playing time? Because we saw it happen with Okogie with these guys last season when it was allegedly sort of all set up for him to play. And then they were just like, no. They're like, absolutely not. You're just not going to cut it in that role. And we can't play you anywhere near enough. And that's the big gamble, isn't it? That's the intriguing pick for me, or one of them. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. I'm not going to tell you that eBay Motors is an intriguing pick because we all know what eBay Motors is about. They're about the winning formula, which is passion, drive, and patience. And that's how you win championships. Is it how you win the draft? Probably. Could be one of those things as well. eBay Motors has everything that you need for your vehicle to maintain it, but also to level it up to peak performance. Roof racks, LED headlights, bumpers, speed, power, or style, whatever it is you need. eBay Motors has everything that you need to have you covered with your vehicle. Over 122 million parts are available at eBay Motors, so whatever it is that your car needs, eBay Motors is going to have it there. And you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And if it doesn't fit, well, eBay Guaranteed Fit has you covered. Because if it doesn't fit, you get your money back. It's got to fit your ride. First time, every time. Something about burning rubber, not burning cash. You know how all that works. But what you need to make sure works is you going to eBay Motors. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers. All right, so this is very much subject to change. I've done absolutely zero projections on this, but I know people love some sort of immediate reaction to it. This is more tailored towards category league value, and you're going to see why. Now, what I'm going to tell you initially here is that what was I going to say? Most of these guys are centers because in terms of getting fantasy value, when you're not a great draft class in category leagues, it's just easier to do as a center. Some of the guys that I did not include on this list who I think have a shot at some value, maybe it's Zachary Ricochet. Probably not. Maybe it's Tijan Shalan. Almost. I really don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe Devin Carter, if he could find a starting role, but there's still Monk, there's still Fox, there's Keon Ellis, there's Kevin Huerter. It's hard to get enough minutes there. Even though they traded away Davion Mitchell, doesn't really matter. Kal-El Ware, maybe. Would they start him and Bam together? They've got no power forwards. Do they make Bam a 4 now and Ware at center? If Ware started, then absolutely I'm into that. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And they're probably the main guys, I would say, who have that chance that I haven't mentioned in this group. There are going to be other guys that step up at certain times during the season, of course. So I think the obvious one here This is in no particular order, but sort of an order, but no particular order, because again, I haven't done enough work on this, because I can't, because roster's unset. I don't even know if I did hit the thing. It's got to be Alex Sarr. I think it has to be, because he prioritized going to the Wizards ostensibly because he was going to have a pretty free run at good role, good minutes, good usage. No idea what happens with Kuzma. We'll start at center. Whatever it is, Sarr is starting. Whether it's at center or if Kuzma is gone and Sarr starts at the 4 next to Vukcevic. What we do know is that Bilal is going to start. And then I don't really know. If Kuzma's there, Kuzma will start. But Brogdon, Poole, Sarr, Vukcevic, a lot of different options. Sarr, if you're unaware, is 19. He's 7 foot tall, 7'4" wingspan. He averaged 21 and 10 with 3.4 blocks per 40 minutes for Perth. He only played 18 minutes a night and shot 28% from 3, but I think he can work into being a reliable enough 3-point shooter at 34%. He's a 22 usage player, so he's not a high usage guy. He was picked 2 by the Wizards. His similarity best came out as Evan Mobley, which is a huge W. And that makes a little bit of sense. I also, in some of my stat projection stuff, saw a little Chet Holmgren in those numbers. But if he's playing 32 minutes, and there won't be hardly any people in this draft class playing those minutes, so that already gives him a boost. Yeah, you could get 1.5 blocks with 7, 8 rebounds and 13 points and 1.2 threes. Yeah, 1.5 assists, 73 from the line. Not great. Don't touch him in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Probably 80s, but again, really early. Too early to know. But in terms of someone that's going to play 30 minutes, not really many of them. And he's got a relatively strong fantasy game overall. So Alex Sarr, to me, has to be the guy in the best spot to grab pretty solid redraft value, or at least be, at this point, the early favorite to be the best fantasy rookie. I would have all the way through taken him at number 1 in Dynasty, and still would. We'll do more Dynasty ranks later. This one was tough for me to get my head around. I still think that Donovan Clingan has a shot at value. Now, I would not touch him in the top 100. And the reason is that DeAndre Ayton exists, and Robert Williams, I was going to say exists. He might not exist. I don't know. But Ayton is still there currently. But Klingan's game is tailored towards category leagues in fantasy. So even if he plays 20 minutes as a backup, which they could put Ayton at the 4 a little bit. Ayton loves that, because if there's anything we know is that centers who should play center love playing power forward. Shout out to Alex Sarr as well. Ayton thinks that's who he is. He's not, but he thinks that's who he is. But if they decide to do that and Clingan plays 20, look, Klingan's never going to be a 30-minute a night guy anyway. He played 23 minutes in college. When, he should have been playing 30 if that's what he could do. I don't think he can, to be honest. But in 23 minutes, the man might block 2.3 shots, 2.4 shots, shoot 68 from the field, have 10 points and 7 rebounds. He's not a good free throw shooter, absolutely, but think of what Andre Drummond did in limited minutes, but then think of someone who knows how to block shots added on top of that. And I think that's the sort of stuff that Clingan could provide. And look, we usually have 3.5 top 120 fantasy rookies each season. We may not have 2 this year. Clingan might not get there. There just might not be enough minutes. But they also obviously really targeted drafting him, and they were excited to get him. And maybe there is another move coming that enables him to be a 25-minute-a-night player. His projection, the most similar player, is going to be very interesting for Blazers fans to get their head around, because it's Greg Oden. So, the size, obviously, the shot blocking ability. Unfortunately, also the fact that Donovan Clingan dealt with foot injuries in college is a similarity there as well. And I think he's a pretty sizable injury risk, given his size and already the history of a foot injury as a big man is not ideal. He's 20 years of age, 7'2", with a 7'7" wingspan, averaged 24 and 14 per 40 minutes and 4.5 blocks. Like, they're huge numbers. He is going to be a 3-category guy. Rebounds, blocks, field goal percentage. He'll hurt your free throws. Maybe he gives you slightly above average assists for the position for the minutes, but might be 2.5. He's not going to score. His usage was high in college, 25%, won't be that in the NBA. I don't think he ever shoots threes. at all, or even any sort of spacing. But for category leagues, the 3 category specialist, big man, has value, has appeal. And that's where Klingon is. Shockingly, the next player is a center. And I was going to include Zach Edey in terms of my top 5 most intriguing picks because he would be in that list. But I wanted to put him in this spin. I just didn't want to double up on it. Edey went way higher than I thought. When I started the draft process, I didn't have Edey in my first round. I ended up moving up to around 24, 25. I worry significantly about the way that he can play on defense. I worry that the fact that he had an 81% free throw rate in college has no way of holding. And a lot of the stuff he did with a million post-ups and very high usage has just no way of being a real thing in the NBA. And I thought, well, how does that work? How does he clog things up and get in the way and then cause real problems defensively? So he's intriguing. But I want Memphis to just start Jaren Jackson at center, but I don't think they are. And I think that the aim here is that Edey starts at center or is going to start there really quickly. Because maybe it's Clark and Jackson to begin the year. I don't know. He's 22. He's 7'4" with a 7'11" wingspan. He averaged 32 and 15 with 2.7 blocks. Now, at that size, I would hope, as a general, you can block more than 2.7 shots per 40 minutes. Like, that is not a good number for someone with that size, and that's a worrying thing. Again, the other thing there is, can he shoot? I'm not sure. Tankathon projects him out at about 32% from 3. I don't think he's going to take... He barely took any in college. But this is... I don't know the answer off the top of my head to this. But I wonder who is the player that had the biggest single-season drop in usage from college / wherever they played before the draft to first season in the NBA. Because his usage was 33% in college. And he's going to be on this Memphis team where Ja is going to take more shots. Americans seem to have a problem with the way I pronounce Ja. I don't really know how you expect me to say it. Oh, you say it like it's Ja, J-A-R. Yeah? How else would you say J-A? Ja. I forgot. I think I did that already. Someone else complained another time. Ja Morant. Ja. Ja is there. Ja is there. Desmond Bane. He's going to take a lot of shots. Jaren Jackson. Guess what? He's going to take a lot of shots. Who's the other starter in that group? Vince Williams. I guess. Who else is... where does he sit in terms of Edey's usage? So could Edey go to a 17% usage season? Maybe, down from 33. And then, that is his role. That is his value. He's being this offensive guy who is very, very hard to stop. But if he goes down to being a below-average usage player, then what do we do? The other guys that could also... Sorry, there's also Santiel Darmasill on this team, who's not going to start. There is G.G. Jackson, who they developed quite a bit out of last season. Oh yeah, Marcus Smart's the other one. Not saying Marcus Smart would necessarily have higher usage than Zach Edey, but he could. So there's going to be a huge drop. But rebounds, field goal percentage, some scoring, some blocks. And it seems a path to decent minutes. So I think he's going to have some fantasy appeal, as much as I don't love him as a prospect. The fourth guy is a center. It's Yves Missi. And the reason I'm putting Yves Missi here is that I look at the way that the Pelicans roster is set up, and he could very easily waltz in Derek Lively style and start at center opening night. Play 23 minutes a night and be useful enough the way that Derek Lively was. He was picked at 21. I didn't mention this, but Zach Edey's best player similarity was DeMarcus Cousins, but the similarity score out of 100 was so low. It was 60. So there's no one that's like Edey really like that coming out of college. Missi's similarity is Bebe Nogueira, Raptors legend. Missi is 6'11", 7'2" wingspan, which is pretty small. He was only a 22 usage player. He never shoots. He never spaces. I actually hate the pick for the Pelicans. As much as I really like Missi, I think it's just a terrible fit. 19 and 10 per 40 with 2.7 blocks. But if he plays a Derek Lively role and plays 23 minutes, 8 points, 10 rebounds, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, sharing time with Larry Nance. He's not going to play those 28 minutes because Nance probably does that. But there is a chance to move into a sizable role, and he does have okay translations. Now, he'll never steal. He'll never get assists. He'll Walker Kessler it. But high field goals, good rebounds, good blocks, all that stuff is there. 62 from the line is bad as well, which is a problem, but high field goals is pretty good. So Misi jumps into that spot as an option. Now, I mentioned guys that could have value that I'm not going to talk about, and there was one name I did forget to mention, and that's Bub Carrington. Bub conceivably could start the season for the Wizards at point guard. They do still have Brogdon and Poole. They do still have Kispert that might get minutes, and maybe they bring back Tyus Jones. But Carrington would be the player that I don't know that I would draft in the top 120, mainly because rookie point guard, as much as I like him, not super good, and will hurt you in so many areas, and it will be a terribly, terribly steep learning curve, I would think. So while I think Carrington's got a chance at interesting minutes, maybe he's not in my top 5. So do we go the whole hog and go 5 centers? No, we don't. We end up going with Matas Buzelis. Now, if there was any team that you thought would focus on narrative drafting, it's Chicago. Hey, look at this. The Lithuanian GM picks the Lithuanian kid who was born in Chicago. Wow. I could not have expected that to happen. Buzelis, people had in the top 5. Other people think that he might just be bad. And I honestly don't really know where I sit with it. I think that the shooting for him in the G League was bad. 26% from 3, not much different to Ron Holland. His projected threes are at 33%. Okay. He's 6'9" with a 6'10" wingspan. That's not good. That is a +1. It's not very good. He is still young. He averaged 19 and 9 with 2.6 blocks as a 4. He's got some on-ball creation value or ability, but only 21 usage. Again, the context of that team is very weird. He shot 70% from the line, worse than Ron Holland. I'm not sure that he ever becomes a shooter at all. 49% effective field goals as a 6'10", 6'9" forward. That's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But as much as this team still has so many question marks, does DeRozan return? Do they trade Levine? What do they do with Patrick Williams, who had surgery, but also is a restricted free agent, and they've given up on multiple times? And by giving up, I mean benched him for Torrey Craig and Javonte Green. That's giving up when you're a top 4 pick, if you get benched for those guys. And they have no one who defends. The only guy they have is an undersized point guard, and that's Ayo Dosunmu, who defends. So, there is an opportunity for Buzelis to start opening night at power forward. The problem that it's going to be in terms of the team being bad is that him and Josh Giddey, and if DeRozan's there, or Vooch, no one shoots, no one spaces. It's Kobe White, and that is a huge load on him, but then where's and Levine, but it's not enough. So that fit stuff is really quite weird. Him and Giddey together doesn't make a lot of sense. But this team and this management makes no sense. And they love something that they can say, come watch the hometown boy in action. And they need defense. And they have no forwards. And there's no faith in Pat Williams. So Buzelis could start. He could work his way to 13 points on 44% shooting with 67 or 70 from the line. But get 1.7 blocks and 7.5 rebounds. And 2 or 3 assists or something like that. Which is maybe good enough to scrape in at the back end of leagues and drafts and be on and off rosters. But there is a path here. It's not a superb one, but it's a path. His player similarity was Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. Yuck. So that's where we sit with the draft. If you've got any ideas of how you would like shows ordered or which shows you'd like to come at certain points, let me know. Because I've got to try and figure out, how I'm going to get these shows out and what I'm going to do with the draft and free agency. And then I've also got to start to work out some shows that I'm going to pre-record from when I'm heading over to the States in a week or so to go over there for Summer League. So I'm interested to hear about your thoughts on that as well. So that's my top 5. Top 5 most interesting picks. Top 5 guys who at this early stage I think could have an impact for fantasy. But when I tell you I'm not interested in these guys this year, I am not interested in them. The only guy I would consider at this early stage is Alex Sarr in the top 100. Not Ricochet, not Shepard, not Castle. I wouldn't take Salin there. Wouldn't take Ron. Wouldn't take Dillingham. Wouldn't take anyone else at this early point. But Edie maybe. But I can see Edie. I can see Klingon perhaps. I can see Bezelis. And I can see maybe Misi having a path to a role that enables some value to appear. If you're here and haven't disappeared, I'd love for you to give it a thumb up, share it with your friends, and whatever else you need to do. Just, criticize me in the comments. That's always fun. So go ahead and do that. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.